Whenever you're ready.
People may know that caffeine can make you awake. I'm sorry, I'm a little bit nervous. Let me start again. People may know that caffeine can make you awake, but you may not understand how the substance really works. So where does caffeine come from? Caffeine comes from a variety of natural sources, including tea leaves, cola nuts, cacao beans, and of course coffee beans. It is used in a wide range of commonly consumed drinks, such as coffee, hot chocolate, energy drinks, soda, and even in some kind of chewing gums. Myths abound when it comes to caffeine. Its effect vary from person to person. How caffeine To understand how caffeine really works, you can use it more efficiently. Today I'm going to talking about how caffeine stimulates the body, how fast the body processes caffeine, and how withdrawal affect the body. While you are awake, the neuron in your brain fire away and process a compound called adenosine as a byproduct. To understand how caffeine really works, a little bit background knowledge is needed. Adenosine is monitored by your nerve system through receptors. As shown here, adenosine and caffeine have similar molecular structures. This similarity is critical in what makes caffeine works. Typically, when adenosine drop and hit a certain low level in your spinal cord and brain, the body signals to you to start relaxing to prepare for sleep. When a substantial amount of caffeine is ingested, such a typical 100 to 200 milligrams of strong 8 ounces of coffee, it works its way towards your body and mimics the effects. In other words, caffeine tricks your body to thinking that you're not ready for sleep by acting like adenosine. Secondary, though caffeine can give you more energy, but it still doesn't make up for lost sleep. The effect of caffeine, including how long it lasts and how it boosts your energy, depending on person's genetic tolerance and other factors, affect their unique physiology. But generally, caffeine lasts for about 5 to 6 hours. And half-life is the amount of time it takes for a quantity of a substantial to be reduced to half the original amount. So if you consume 10 milligrams of caffeine, after 5 hours, you will still have 5 milligrams in your body. The effects from caffeine reach peak level within 30 to 60 minutes of consumption. This is the time you most likely to experience the jittery effect of caffeine. You might urinate more due to the liquid volume being ingested and the caffeine's mild diuretic effect. The other half of caffeine that you consume can last more than 5 hours. People with caffeine sensitivities might feel symptoms for several hours or even few days. For women taking birth control pill between ovulation or the beginning of the menstruation, it affects twice as long to process the caffeine. For regular smoker, their body takes half as long to process the caffeine. Lastly, whether people choose for afternoon soda or morning espresso, they will typically develop a strong tolerance to a daily dose of caffeine for somewhere between a week and 12 days. However, when they stop getting daily dose, the tolerance goes away. The effects of caffeine withdrawal come on very quickly between 12 to 24 hours after you last use. That's why people crave on a cup of coffee in the morning to ward off withdrawal. The most common symptom is headache, but symptoms can also include negative mood, fatigue, nausea, and dizziness. Depending on your body, those will last for 10 days until withdrawal is over. In conclusion, while caffeine isn't particularly dangerous as far as drugs can go, consuming too much of it still and long-term reliance on it can cause serious side effects. Even it seems like harmless when friends and coworkers rave about how they can function without caffeine. Caffeine dependency is serious stuff and shouldn't be taken lightly. If you have about first cup of coffee of the day, maybe consider putting it down. Instead, drink some water instead of it. Thank you.
All right, well, on the content, I think you're in good shape. Everything is set up at the beginning of the speech pretty clearly. You've got a good preview. I know what your topic is. And there's content in the presentation for the most part that you do a good job on. You might need to cite some of that information a little bit more, but that's not necessarily the big thing that we are working on this particular assignment, but we will want you to continue to do that in your presentations, especially when there's research involved. The delivery aspects, when it comes to body movement, you basically stand in the one spot the whole time, and I don't know if it just feels like that's the right spot to be in, but it does feel a little constrained, I think, for the audience. I think you need to step forward a little bit once in a while to emphasize a point, maybe change the orientation of your body when you're speaking there, because it does feel a little, you're not quite the wooden statue that we talked about, but you are you're not moving from that one spot, and it feels a little unnatural to watch you just stand there in that one spot for 8 minutes. And you're not at a podium, you're not looking at notes or anything, so it's a little unnatural that you're not moving around a bit. Like I said, I think this would be one of those places where the idea of walking the transitions would be a good idea. That maybe you start off in the one spot, and then when you get to the first main point, take a couple steps over to the left, to the right, and talk from there for a minute or two. So plan some movements in your presentation. Even it may not feel comfortable for you to do it well, when you're speaking naturally. So it may be one of those things that you have to plan a little bit, like an actor planning out what it is they're going to do, so to force yourself to be a little bit more engaged. Your gestures are a little limited. You've got indicators. I can see you speaking, and you're emphasizing some points, but they're all very contained. It's always, down around the waist, and it's your hands, and you emphasize points with your hands a little bit, but it's all within this kind of range. And fortunately, it's not a big deal. We've got a small audience here, so big gestures aren't necessary. You're not trying to reach the back of the room and help everybody do that. It works okay in this context. But again, it's one of those things where I think you could probably loosen up a little bit and be more engaging if you could do that. I don't know if it's the note card and the remote that are in your hand that make you feel like you have to keep your hands down. Sometimes that's the way people react to those sorts of things. But I think most people kind of expect in a presentation that the speaker is going to be a little bit more engaging, and you're not giving us much visual engagement with your body and your gestures. Your facial expressions, same sort of thing. You look at us, you smile occasionally, but you seem a little passive in your expression. And I think part of it is the style of the presentation. You're being very formal in what the content of the speech is, and you're focusing on the detailed information. And that, the content is fine, like I said, but if you want to keep the audience engaged and interested, you're going to have to add some things in there, some stories or a joke or a music idea or a bit of trivia or something to make it a little bit more interesting. And then that would also encourage you to engage the audience a little bit more. When you make, like at the end, when you had your conclusion, you just say, maybe instead of having another cup of coffee, you have a glass of water. You need to make that it's a recommendation. It doesn't sound like the end of a speech. It sounds like the end of one section where you're given a recommendation at the end, and it's kind of mechanical. You need some kind of joke there that goes along with that. So instead of filling yourself up with another cup of coffee, another espresso from Starbucks, how about opening a bottle of water instead? Something that says the same thing, but says it in a slightly lighter way, and then you have a reason to kind of smile and engage with the audience because you're not just presenting data. And I think that's part of the problem, is because you're so focused on the content and getting all this information the right way, that you're not doing the other things that make a presenter more engaging. You're not doing anything wrong, by the way. So when I'm saying these things, I'm not dumping on you. That was not a bad speech. That was a perfectly fine presentation. You're doing a lot of things that are very good. You're looking at the audience for the most part. You smile occasionally. You do have gestures, but I'm just trying to give you suggestions about things to do better. So the content stuff's very good. The presentation things are satisfactory, but there's so many places that you could make improvements that you don't want to miss taking advantage of those kinds of things. And sometimes it's the content that's going to help you a little bit. So if you make the content a little bit more stylistically interesting, that would encourage you to be a little bit more interesting in your presentation. Or maybe you can force yourself to do a couple of those things that you're not doing. All right, but like I said, everything is solid. I didn't have anything that I thought was a problem in the presentation. I'm just pointing out things that I think you could do better. All right, thank you.